Hey everyone, it's Mrs. Peach. I'm the one that married the guy. He starts a podcast in less than 2 days, and I'm over here waiting for him to get me to marry him. It took him 7 years. I'm still wondering about that. But hey, first, check this out.
Many of our decisions have a dollar sign associated with it. So if every life decision becomes so complex that you're stuck on your side and I'm stuck on my side, how do we connect and agree or even just move forward? They usually get stuck, which is why finances is the number one reason that couples get divorced.
Today's guest on the show is Kiné Corder. She's a best-selling author, international speaker, and she's actually a psychotherapist that specializes in financial therapy. Now, Kiné has a pretty interesting story. She actually came from the TV world. She was the spokesperson for ABC's Extreme Makeover show. She's been in Elle, People Magazine, TV Guide, Good Morning America, Entertainment Tonight, and even Oprah. But she's coming on the show today to talk about money, your money mentality, marriage and money, relationships and money, how to navigate your money mindset. So if you're someone who's wondering how in the world am I going to get my spouse on board with the finances, or you just want to know, am I allowed to go shopping? You're going to absolutely love this interview. So without further ado, let me bring on Kiné Corder. What's up, Kiné? Thanks so much for coming on the show. Glad you're here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So I'm going to just say this because I had to ask a few times. I want to make sure that I'm getting this right. Kiné, you are a psychotherapist specializing in financial therapy, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So we're in the 90s now on this podcast show, and this is the first time we've ever had a psychotherapist from the financial wellness sector come on. This is the first time we've ever had a psychotherapist come on, so I'm excited. I'm excited because I want to talk about this. I want to dive in a little bit. We got a pretty exciting show for you guys today, but before we jump into the psychotherapy of financial wellness, which you guys are going to absolutely love, Kiné, give us a little background, because when you and I were just talking before we hit record, you haven't been in the financial world forever, right? You had a pretty interesting life before that.
Yeah. And I just want to say how interesting it is that the first time you have a psychotherapist on is during Mental Health Awareness Month. I think that is so fascinating.
The stars align for a reason. So, I mean, this was not planned.
Exactly.
When you told me that, did you know that this month is, I was like, no, but everything happens for a reason. So here we are.
Yeah. So I love that. So yeah, my background, I like to say, the statement about a jack of all trades and a master of none. Well, I was a little bit different than that. I was a jack of all trades, and I would master something and then I would get bored and move on. But one of the things, my degree is actually in film and television production. So I grew up in the entertainment industry and worked in it in the beginning of my life and loved it. But like the stock market, it fluctuates. And fluctuation, as you know, is scary. It brings anxiety. And so I was always looking for a way to support myself through this entertainment career, because that, going on Extreme Makeover kind of propelled me further in my entertainment career, became SAG, Screen Actors Guild. But at the same time, things would come and then they would go, you'll find yourself feast or famine. Well, during one of my famine times, a friend of mine came to me and he was like, "You're so smart and I need your help. Could you take the broker's test so that we can start a company together?" So I was like, "Sure." I'm not doing anything. I'll just go take the mortgage broker and real estate broker test so that we can start this company. And he had a great idea and a good business model. So it looked like it was going to make money, and I was very money motivated. So I went in with him. And then from there, we saw that we couldn't help people because they needed credit repair sometimes. So we started a credit improvement company to go along with it. And then we added that. People would say, "Well, what's next?" And we started looking into it, and maybe insurance. So I got an insurance license. And then it was like, "Wait, you don't have any stocks or bonds. Oh, I need another license for that." So I got a Series 7 license. So it just kind of snowballed. And I went from the entertainment industry being my baby, my love, but that was sort of my first love. And then I kind of, moved on to this new love, and I fell in love with finance and every part of it. And basically sold anything with a dollar sign associated with it.
So you're definitely very successful. I'm looking here on your site right now. And so you say the entertainment industry, but I think
for people listening, I think you hear people like, yeah, I was in the entertainment industry. I always reference Seinfeld. I'm a big Seinfeld fan. And so for those of you who know Seinfeld, you know that I'm always going to go there. But there's an episode in Seinfeld where Kramer gets to sit in for the Oscars when someone has to get up and go to the restroom or get an award.
Oh, yeah.
He sits in and he tells everybody he's in the entertainment world. He says, yeah, I'm in the entertainment industry. When he really, so I think that you need to give yourself a little bit more, I know you're just being humble here, but I'm looking at your bio here. Oprah, E, Entertainment Tonight, ABC, or the Today Show. So kind
Good Morning America.
When you say you're in the entertainment world, I mean, you were in a small role. You were in a very large role. So, I mean, just give us a short overview so we kind of understand the role of entertainment. I don't think it was the Cosmo Kramer version.
So I think what happens is because you do all those roles, sometimes you are a seat filler, and then sometimes you're Oprah. So because you have those different roles, sometimes all you remember is the seat filler because it's so poignant in your life because you do that for a long time. Well, I got connected with ABC, and so ABC kind of that connection propelled me forward. And as you see that whole overnight success kind of thing, you've seen it happen where you don't realize that somebody exists until they blow up. And then you're like, oh, look, he was an extra in that movie and he had one line in this movie, kind of like that. Well, that was what my career did. I did a lot of work behind the camera, just a little bit in front of the camera. And then when I got Extreme Makeover, it kind of propelled everything forward. My entertainment industry career, but also my speaking career got propelled forward. And so I got opportunities like Oprah, and a lot of that came because people saw my show. So I tell the story, I met Alanis Morissette because we had the same dentist, and she's like, oh my gosh, that's the girl from Extreme Makeover. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Alanis Morissette. And so she asked the dentist, like, see if she'll meet me. And so he comes over and he's like, Alanis Morissette wants to know if you'll meet her. I'm like, what? Yes, of course. What kind of question is that? And so we, introduce, we get to talk, and she asked me a couple questions. And then later, same kind of thing happens. I was on the set of this show called The Parkers, and the cast saw me in the waiting area, and they were like, is that the girl? Like, that's the girl. And so everybody's like, so they knew my name. They're like, Kiné. And I'm like, oh my gosh, who knows me here, right? And it's Monique, the comedian Monique. And so she's like, hey, come here. So they call me down to the set. I get promoted basically just because I was on the show and somebody noticed me. And that's just the way the entertainment industry works. You got to be in the right place at the right time. And as you see, I'm on your show in May, Mental Health Month, and I'm a psychotherapist. I tend to be in the right place at the right time.
So going off what you said about Alanis Morissette, isn't it ironic, right? That, there, I had to say it. You set it up perfectly. So, okay, so that's the background I wanted to hear. Moving forward now, so, I mean, you're in the entertainment world. You're not a psychotherapist. You're not talking about becoming a psychotherapist. It kind of, like you said just a few minutes ago, you kind of, I guess, dove right into it after having some opportunities. But one thing that I'm really impressed with is when you want something, you go out and get it. It was like saying, I realized I needed to get a Series 7 license. So I went and got that, and then I got my master's. Have you always been like that?
Yeah, that is the way my parents raised us. It was like, you can do anything, you can be anything. It was never, well, if they allow you and if the opportunity presents itself, it was nothing about opportunity knocking. I didn't hear about that until later. We were like on the porch and we're meeting opportunity halfway. That's the way we were raised. And so kind of like you said, when I sat in my office and I realized that couples were arguing because of this financial plan that I just presented to them, my gut said, you got to help. Like, you're doing good by helping people with their finances, but you can do much better work if you can help people heal from whatever trauma or anxiety or whatever this is that's holding them back. Because this man and this woman should not be arguing over money, because they're okay if they could just get through this argument. And so that was weighing on my heart pretty heavy. And so I decided, like you said, I just went after it. I went back and got my master's in clinical mental health counseling so I could determine how I can help people get healed from their past money history and live a healthy, happy life together.
So would you say, for the most part, being a psychotherapist in the financial world, I mean, are you dealing with a lot of couples that are struggling to get the money right together? Do you see the most of that, or What would be kind of like a situation that you come across very often?
Yeah, my office is in a really, I would say, affluent area. Is Peachtree City and Sonoya is where they shoot The Walking Dead. We'll talk about that later. But Peachtree City and Sonoya, the people who live here are not normally struggling. That's not the norm in this area. And so the money is there, but because of past programming, sometimes one person doesn't want to spend money, where the other person, because they were raised maybe by savers, spending seems like a sin. And then there's another person who maybe saving almost seems like a sin, like you need to enjoy your money because we don't know how long we're going to be here. And, it's just money, so if those two people get together, there's a lot of discourse and disconnect. And even though they love each other, there's going to be money arguments over and over and over again. And I mean, let's face it, many of our decisions have a dollar sign associated with it. So if every life decision becomes so complex that you're stuck on your side and I'm stuck on my side, how do we connect and agree or even, just move forward? They usually get stuck, which is why finances is the number one reason that couples get divorced.
You had just said that many of the things in life, the decisions in life are connected to finances. I'll go one step further. I've thought about this over and over again, and I can't think of a single decision that's not tied directly to finances. I mean, whatever you're doing, it's always tied to money somehow, right? I mean, it somehow is. Yes. If you dig a little bit, you're like, oh, yep, there it is. I had somebody say, well, what if you lived out in the middle of nowhere and you didn't have electricity, you were off the grid? I'm like, well, maybe that's the one case, but who's doing that's listening to the show, right? Because something happened.
Right. Because then they don't have the internet.
There's no internet. But the point is every single thing that we do in life somehow touches money. And you hit the nail on the head a minute ago. You said, the number one cause of divorce in America is money, is the problems with money. And yet it's like the one area that I feel like we still lack in knowledge, right? I mean, we go through, and I'm going to go on my soapbox for a second. People have heard me talk about this, but I'm not against education. I'm just against the lack of financial education, right?
Add that in.
School and college. I have a friend, he's a financial advisor, and he laughs all the time. He's like, I went through school and I learned all about how the markets work and what everything there is to know about being a financial advisor. I was never taught how to manage my own household budget in school. I was never taught how to do anything with personal finance. And yet we take these 18 to 24-year-olds and then we say, okay, you guys are adults now. Hop out there, go buy a house, finance a car, get a credit card, build your credit report. Oh, and by the way, figure it out along the way.
Right. Trial and error.
Holy crap. What's going on here? Right? Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. And then people say, oh, well, you're supposed to learn it from your parents. But where did they learn it? Right? Trial and error. So all they can pass down is their negative programming. This is why you need a financial therapist, because you got negative programming passed down and they didn't teach it in school. You know why? Because no teacher wants to touch that. They got negative programming.
Absolutely. So you said that you have somebody come in your office and usually one's a saver, one's a spender. So we have some friends of ours down the street hang out there quite a bit. And we were actually just talking about this. I think last week we were sitting down and we were talking about how she is more of the spender and he is more of the saver. And when they got married, she was like, look, your psychoness of having to go nonstop saving for everything needs to stop because spending can be fun. And he was like, all right, well, you're out of control. Spending needs to stop. So they met in the middle and they're like the perfect balance. And it made me think of this quote. I forget who said it, but it was saying, in a relationship, if you both were the same, then technically one of you would not be necessary.
It's not. Yeah, I'm so with you. I use that all the time to get couples to understand that different is okay. So I love that. Yes, thank you for mentioning that. And I'm with you. And I also add that because I talk about your money mentality, and saver and spender are just two of the 7 money mentalities that I have seen in my career. And what I find is that people are savers and spenders, but sometimes there's another characteristic that overrides that. So for instance, I have like the enthusiast is one that I like. The enthusiast is that like get rich quick kind of person. They're like, it's out here. I'm going to find that get rich quick scheme. It's out here. Right. And the enthusiast will buy the bar. And so, however, a spender is not necessarily going to buy the bar, but the enthusiast looks like a spender, but they spend differently. And then there's the hero. And the hero is usually buying for everybody else or lending money out, always lending money. And the hero can sometimes look like a spender too, but it's really about gifting for them. They're like, oh, you can't pay your mortgage? No worries. I got you. How much you need on it? Right? Oh, you got another boot on your car? That's okay. Let me give you some money. Go get it off. They're rescuing everybody. And so there are all these different money mentalities. Every single one of them has a negative and a positive. So if the couple can determine, and this kind of goes into the marriage money mission. So if the couple can determine what positive one person has and what positive the other person has, and then delegate the negative to the one who is positive in that area, this makes for the happier home. Now, this is part of therapy, financial therapy. Now, eventually they want to get to the president lifestyle. That is the ultimate money mentality. The president has harmony in all areas of the money cycle, which I define as earn, grow, protect, gift, and enjoy your money. So how you navigate the money cycle is going to determine your lifestyle, but your money mentality determines how you navigate the money cycle. Does that make sense, or did I just confuse you?
No, that makes sense. No, that makes sense. I haven't used the terms, the presidential, but I'm completely on board with you. So one of the questions that I get a lot is, I actually just heard this the other day. It's like, Chris, I feel like I do all of the work as far as handling the money. And my husband, I love him to death, but he doesn't do anything. I do it all. He does nothing. When the money is tight, I am like enemy number one. But when money's going good, I don't ever get rewarded for it. So I feel like, why do I even handle the finances? Because it just seems like every time we get to the end of the month, I'm like the bad guy. And we're sharing money. Why am I the bad guy? I mean, do you ever come across that?
Yep, I do all the time. So on my podcast, I recently had a couple that were clients of mine, and they didn't mind coming on and talking about their story. And that was a big part of their story. And now they have been married for 18 years before they became clients of mine. So can you imagine how long this had been going on? And it was to the point where the husband felt just like what you explained. And the wife thought that's how he wanted to feel. She thought he wanted control over the finances. And she was coming to me because she was like, I would like to know something. Like, I don't know how to get in there. Like, I've never done it. It's been 18 years. I've been relying on him. I don't mind relying on him, but I'm starting to get curious. And so she thought that she'd be treading on his territory. And I did too. So I told her, tread lightly and be gentle when you go in and say, I want to become a part of this, because that's his area. And so don't go in bulldozing and, trying to be the boss. You go in like an intern. So, and she embraced that. And then he embraced her and was like, well, it's about time, kind of thing. So, well, thank you for coming. And so he was very open to her coming in, but he shared on the show that at times he wasn't grateful. At times he was afraid, like, wait a minute, what does this mean? I'm giving up a little bit of control, and eventually a lot of control, because now she's running the money meeting sometimes. Because one of the things that I have couples do is come up with what I call your money day, and you have at least one day a month where you sit down and talk about money. And the reason why I do that, and it could be more than one day, but it needs to be at least one day. And the reason why I did that, especially for this couple, because they weren't talking about it at all. So to slowly wean them into talking about money, because sometimes that conversation is tough, I said, make one day a month. We call it Money Day. And then you sit down and you have your conversation and hold the stuff that you want to argue about. Hold it until Money Day. Because can you imagine every time you see your partner, they're talking about what bill is due and, how much money this costs and that costs. That is not sexy, and that is not going to want to make you curl up next to them. So hold some of that conversation for Money Day, and then you can enjoy each other during the week.
All right, I got to say one thing here. So yes. I am the money guy in the house.
Okay.
And my wife's involved as I am, but I'm the one that nerds out on it. I love it.
Oh, okay.
So if my wife comes up to me and she says, oh my gosh, we just sent off more money to the Roth IRA, that's sexy to me. Like, she talked about that all day long. So I think there's nerds out there that are going to be like,
Yeah.
wait a second. But I totally agree, because if I go to her and I say, hey, I noticed that we made this Amazon purchase. Do you know what it was for? All I want to know is what it was for. Just I'm curious. And she's like, why, was I not supposed to spend that much money? And I'm like, no. So I like the idea. I think it depends on who your audience is. But here's a question I have. There's so many people listening right now. I guarantee you are thinking, I'm either the one that's handling all the finances and I feel like I'm drowning and my partner is doing nothing about it. Or there's the other one saying, what the heck are they doing over there? They're not really handling the money well. I should probably take it over because they don't know what they're doing. So let's just role play for a second. Person number one, they're the ones that are handling the finances 100%. They're stressed out. They're staying up late at night. Their partner doesn't know they are. What is a way they can approach their partner and say, hey, I need some help?
Yeah, so that is the marriage money mission. And part of the marriage money mission, so it goes back to the money cycle that I mentioned earlier, and that's earn, grow, protect, gift, and enjoy your money. And then it also goes to the money mentality. So you know how I said that you need to determine your money mentality and then what positives and negatives you have? Well, I say the first step is the one person who's taking all the finances on to say, hey, I discovered this money mentality quiz. We should take it together, right? And then each person take the money mentality quiz, see what their money mentality is, have a discussion around the positives and the negatives. Well, based on your money mentality, it seems like you'd be good at this, this, and this, but you're not really doing that. Would you like to? Is that something you'd like to do? And just be curious to see. So 2 words that I use in therapy a lot are curious and non-judgmental. So, and when you are curious, you suspend judgment. And that's why I like curious, because sometimes when I say, well, don't be judgmental, people don't even know how to do that. So the way that you do that, don't be judgmental, is to be curious. So say, and you can say that to your partner. I'm curious. I see your money mentality, and I'm curious to know if you'd be willing, or, if you would like to be more a part of this part of the finances. Would that be something you'd like to do? And then see what they say, and just wait.
So I'm going to give you an example, then you tell me if this is on point. I'm learning from you. So if I go to my wife, Andrea, and I'm the one that usually does the spreadsheets, and I'm the nerdy one and all that kind of stuff, and I go up to Andrea, instead of saying, look, you need to cool it at Target. This is getting out of control. I'm handling all the finances here, and you are overspending at Target. Maybe I can reapproach that and say, I'm curious. I noticed that there's been some spending at Target. I'm so appreciative of what you do as far as, making sure that we have food and groceries and all that kind of stuff. But I'm curious, would you ever want to give me some input on how we handle our finances? Because I could definitely use it.
Yeah, that would work. I think that would be a great approach. Now, what I would add is, after you say, because I would need it, add something that would say how it benefits her, like what's in it for her, basically. So if you say, I would need it, and I think it would be a great experience for us to do this together. It would bond us closer, or, it'd be a great time for us to spend some quality time together, or whatever her love language might be. Tie that into why helping in the finances could be helpful for her as well.
I love it. Yeah, people always listen to the radio station WIFM, What's in It for Me. So I always keep that in mind. Now, what's in it for me? All right, so that is the person who is handling all the money and who is kind of stressed out about it. Now, what about the other person? What about, we call them the free spirit that's just like, yeah, like things are going great. I don't know what they're doing over there. I could probably do it better, but I'm going to let them do it. If they wanted to be more involved and they didn't want to come off and, offend their partner or make it sound like you don't know what you're doing, I'm going to take it over. What's a better solution for them to do that?
So it goes back to the curiosity and the judgment. So they definitely need to suspend judgment, because nobody knows what it's like to be in the other person's shoes. That's a true statement. You just do not know. And we are all doing the best with what we have at the moment. So your partner is doing the best she or she possibly can with the finances, with what they have at the moment. And so if you believe you could do a better job, I go still back to the first thing is taking the money mentality quiz and learning a little bit about yourself. Being self-aware is helpful because I find that when there's a lot of blame involved, it usually is coming from a person who is not self-aware. Blaming is you focusing on the other person rather than focusing on yourself. So let's get some self-awareness there first. Find out what you are good at when it comes to finances, and then say, I'm curious if it would help at all if I took over this part of the finances, and tell me how that will make you feel, because it's not my goal to make, or my intention to make you feel bad or inadequate. My goal is to be helpful. So tell me how I can be helpful.
I love it. So you had mentioned that you have a quiz that people can take. What's the name of that quiz again?
So it's the Money Mentality Quiz, and it's at KinéCorder.com/money-quiz.
So we're going to just put links in our show notes to that. So if you guys are listening and you're like, I don't have time to write this down, I can't remember it, don't worry about it. If you're in any podcast app, just scroll down. There'll be a link that'll take you to the show notes, and anything that we talk about in the show, as always in every show, we dump all the links in the show notes. So one thing that you had said a minute ago, Kiné, is you had talked about, maybe understand their love language, understand their love language. And this is something that has been new to me over the past probably 3 to 4 months. I got into this whole love language thing, and I'm sure I mentioned it. I'm a big fan of this guy, Gary Chapman now. He has the 5 love languages. And I just kind of go over these because I think after I went through and took, the love language quiz, and my wife took it, we kind of understand a little bit more about each other. There's basically 5 love languages, and technically they could all tie to money. Actually, they do all tie to money in some way. So, the 5 are words of affirmation. Number 1 is words of affirmation. 2 is acts of service. 3 is receiving gifts. 4 is quality time. 5 is physical touch. And so when you were just talking about know what their love language is, for me, when I took the quiz, go figure this. My number 1 thing is physical touch, right? Okay, I'm a guy, okay? But number 2 is quality time. And so for me, it's, as nerdy as this sounds, quality time could be where we're sitting down, we're talking about the finances and what the future is going to look like. To me, that's a slam dunk. Now, for my wife, she also likes quality time, but the quality time is not like, hey, let's sit down, let's really talk about our budget. That's just not sexy. So I think we need to know these love languages. So if you are in quiz taking mode, we're going to put a link to Kiné's quiz where you're going to learn about the money portion of it, but also take Gary Chapman's. We'll put a link in there as well. Combine those 2 together. And I'm telling you, if listening to this episode, if that's the one takeaway, the one action step that you do today is you take those 2 quizzes, I guarantee you're going to be better off than you were before you started listening to this.
I'm with you all the way.
So it's fun.
So
it's fun.
True. Yes, it is. And then you can make it, because it's kind of that quality time thing. You can say, hey, let's sit down and take these quizzes together and just make it fun. It's just not, and that goes back to the judgment. Not going in judgmental, I want to see so I can make more fun of you. No. You go in curious about yourself. I'm curious to see what my love language is. I'm curious to see what your love language is so I can actually love you more, right? I'm curious to see what your money mentality is. I imagine you must be good at some things, and I want to be clear on what things you're good at. And that's what you find out when you take the money mentality quiz. You'll find out what you're good at. And same thing with the 5 love languages. It reveals how you want to be loved. And once a person knows that, it's like, oh, right? Didn't you feel that way?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they even set it up for you, just so you know, as you take this love language quiz, after you take it, there's a little button that says, share this with your spouse. And I'm like, brilliant. So I fired over the email and a link to a text messenger. So it was funny is she was like, you know what? I kind of guessed that was your love language, but now that, you took these things, it became real. And, so I'm not going to lie. Every once in a while I'll be like, hey, my love language says that I like this. So, she's like, I know, I think we could both use that in that way. But going back is money touches everything, right? Every aspect of our lives, including our relationships. And so one of the questions I get all the time, and I want to hear your take on it, Kiné, because this is a huge question, and it's, Peach, should my husband and I be sharing the finances, or should we keep them separate?
Yeah. So what I try not to do is instill my values on a client. So the first thing that I would ask is, what do they hope to accomplish by doing that? So my value is to blend it together, because you know how they say two heads are better than one, two paychecks going into one account is better than one. So I want to first know, what is the goal? What do they hope to accomplish by keeping the money separate? And once you get that answer, because most of the time it's going to go into some money history, right? Well, that's the way my grandparents did it, right? Or my parents had an account together and my father used to overspend and my mother would always be stressed out. So I said I would never do that, whether that's the man or the woman, right? So it will go back to some money history, and your money history is what creates your money mentality. And unless they have some really strong goal as to why that's important, like, oh, I'm still a Canadian citizen, and if I move my 401k, my old 401k over, and I'm saying this because this was a true story, then I'll have to pay U.S. taxes on it or something like that. It was a long time ago, but that made sense when I heard that. I'm like, I got it. Okay. So you got these Canadian accounts and you need to leave them there. Otherwise, you're going to have to pay some taxes on them here in the U.S. Makes sense. Got it. Leave it there. And let's work on what's going on here. So for me, the first thing I want to know is, what's the goal? Second, if it's attached to money history, I want to kind of divulge some of those myths and kind of remove some of those blocks so that they can feel comfortable merging their money. And then when they get to a point where they can see how this new goal, the ultimate goal, it works to help them accomplish what their heart really truly desires. Because there's three things that you go off of your decision making. It's either head, heart, or gut. And head is protection. If your brain is running the show, it's protecting you. And if your heart is running the show, it's for pleasure, right? If your gut is running the show, that's usually where the solid decisions happen, in your gut. And so I really want them to get down to where they can feel it in their gut that this is the right decision, not in their head because my grandparents did it this way. I know that was a really long answer. So I hope I got to the answer for you. If not, tell me and I can go deeper.
No, I like your answer. I mean, I think that's a great answer. So I always tell people, if you're listening to the Money Peach podcast, Chris Peach is an expert in his own opinion. So what I mean by that is, I remember when we were sitting down for our pre-marriage counseling before we got married, and I'll take this a step further. I have a good friend. He wrote this book called, you guys should definitely grab a hold of it. It's called One Bed, One Bank Account. And this goes back, that pre-marriage counselor said, he goes, are you guys planning on sharing a bed when you get married? And we're like, oh yeah, like absolutely. And he goes, cool, then you should also share a bank account. And it was just like that. And so since I've had that mentality, and then Derek had his book that come out, One Bed, One Bank Account, to me, it just made it a lot easier. Yeah. And what I've learned being married now, we just hit our 10-year anniversary, is it is so easy for secrets to happen without you even trying, right? I mean, especially with social media, you can get a message from somebody, and it was just, totally innocent message, but, I didn't tell my spouse about this innocent message because I didn't even think two things about it. And then somehow, they're like, hey, why is that girl texting you? I'm like, I don't know. And secrets can happen without you even trying.
Yes. And we were just talking about this. Yeah.
So with money, I mean, if you want to have separate accounts, just know that secrets are going to happen, right? Not intentionally.
It does. It opens up for a lot of what I call financial infidelity.
That's a great word. So I just wanted to get your take on it. So Kiné, we're wrapping up here, coming to the end of the show, and I ask every guest that comes to the show 2 amazing questions. So are you ready for this? Number one question I have for you, if you're on a desert island and you can bring one book, or your friend's going on a deserted island and all they can have is this one book, you're going to give them one book to read for the rest of their life. What book is it going to be?
Well, the book that I have in mind, you really don't need if it's a deserted island. But okay, I would love to use, that's so hard because the way you prefaced it would be my book, because my book is called The Art of Starting Over. And if you're on a deserted island, you probably are starting over. However, that might not be the book I give if you only have one book in your life. It would be The 4 Agreements. And I'm imagining that even though you're on a desert island now, maybe you're going to get rescued and eventually have to deal with people again. And if you do, then you need the 4 Agreements. The 4 Agreements will change your life if you follow it.
So we have the 4 agreements. I shouldn't say my wife and I have it hung up in our medicine cabinet. So every time we brush our teeth, we look at it every day. And if I remember the first one, it's be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions. And you look at that every single day and it gets ingrained in your mind.
Yeah. And always do your best.
I love that you said that. In all the episodes we've had nobody mentioned that book yet. So we're going to put links to that book, of course, in the show notes. And of course, we're going to be putting links to Kiné's book in there as well. Kind of going to everything we talk about. Second question I have for you, Kiné, is on your phone, your home screen, what does it look like?
It's a starry night sky. And I think it's like, one of the iPhone options. I just chose it because I love the stars. I love stars.
I love it. And there's a lot of people that come on the show that had the same response. Like, it looked cool. I like the stars.
Mm-hmm.
Lastly, where can we find out more about you? I mean, we talked about, the past here, but I know you got a lot going on now. Where can we head on over to find out more about Kiné, listen to you, read more about you, learn more about what you have to offer?
Awesome. Yes. So I like to say 2 things. If you want to interact with me, then the best place would be to join my Facebook group. And you can do that at kinecorder.com/Facebook. Now that's interact. You'll get videos and, you get to start discussions and stuff like that. But if you just want to read about me, you can just go to kinecorder.com.
All right. So we'll have links to her Facebook group, Kiné Corder. And you also have a podcast, correct?
Yes. And my podcast is so cool. It's just like yours. In fact, you should come on. And it's called the Prosperity Report Love and Money Podcast. And we talk a lot about what we were talking about today. Just how to become a winning team in life, love, and money.
I will come on your show. Absolutely. That'll be fun.
Okay, great.
All right, Kiné, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was fun. I love diving in and talking about topics that actually matter. And I know so many of us, whether we're married, planning on getting married, or even in just a relationship, we can all relate to what we're talking about here. I mean, money touches every aspect of our lives, no matter if you're boyfriend, girlfriend, if you're dating, if you've been together for 35 years. And this stuff can get really, really messy if it's not. Just like anything, over time, you can get out of shape and you're like, man, it's going to take forever to get back into shape. Same thing with your finances. So the best time to start is now.
Yeah, absolutely. And so many emotions involved, but people think that finances are logical, but they're not. They're making emotional decisions. I'm a brain nerd. So I talk a lot about how the brain is affected like trauma. So it's lodged patterns in your brain. And that's why you keep doing the same thing with your money. And I know people wonder, why do I keep doing this? I know this isn't the right thing to do, but I keep doing it. But it's just lodged in your brain. It's programmed.
Part of being human, but we can get better. So, Kiné, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
Glad to have you on. You were a wonderful guest, and looking forward for our listener to go head on over and check out what you have to offer.
Thank you so much. I truly enjoyed it.
Take care, Kiné. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
And just like that, we wrap up another amazing episode of the Money Peach podcast. All the show notes, the links, anything that Kiné and I talked about can be found over at moneypeach.com/session93. That's moneypeach.com/session93. Special thanks goes out to my producer, Steve Stewart, and my assistant, Kayla Sloan. Without them, this show would not be possible. Stay tuned next week for episode 94, where I bring on a man who went through law school, graduated without any student loans. He talks about how he got grants and scholarships, how you can too, and what are the tips, the tricks, and all the little secrets that he's been using in teaching people how to go and graduate debt-free.
It takes the average student loan borrower about 19 years to pay back their student loans. And for graduate students, I think it's about 23 years. And what's so harmful about that is, one, it's taking forever. But when they take it, the surveys they do of these students, when they take out the loans, when they're in school, they think they're going to pay them off by about the time they're 30.
We'll see you guys next week, same time, same place, with another amazing episode of the Money Peach podcast. Thanks for listening. Boom,